Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to The Future is Female. This is the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. Now, January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers, and yet it still continues to claim lives, and often it's because of gaps in access, in awareness, and also early intervention. So today I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Datuk Dr Saunthari Somasundaram, who is the President and Medical Director of the National Cancer Society Malaysia. She's also the President-elect of NCD Alliance. Welcome to the show, Doctor. It's good of you to join me. Before we delve into cervical cancer, I want to kind of begin with you as a person. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and what led you to the National Cancer Society of Malaysia.
Okay, so yes, I'm a medical doctor and I graduated in 1990, so I'm old in this space.
Experienced.
So I got into the cancer space primarily because my mother is a cancer survivor. So whilst I was growing up, I grew up with that idea of cancer around us because my mother developed cancer when I was 5 years old. And over the years, she developed different cancers, but she continued with life, she continued working, etc. But when the opportunity came to work with the National Cancer Society in 2000, so when I came back from the UK, I jumped at it. But I jumped at it primarily not so much as a doctor, but as someone who, as a caregiver, as someone who had gone through that social experience of having cancer, of having someone with cancer in the family and how it impacted the family. And I think during that time, Malaysia was very much into that whole idea that we treat the disease. And when you treat the disease, you forget the person. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to make a difference in the sense that to look at it that when someone has cancer, you shouldn't lose your identity. You should be able to go through that journey, live that journey, and come out the other side. Yes, you'll come out the other side a different person, but still a whole person.
Right. You bring a lived reality to this. You bring a personal experience and perspective to this. Can you tell me how National Cancer Society Malaysia has changed or is changing to make sure that they're no longer just treating the disease but looking at the patient and the entire caregiving ecosystem? So that was a change. I think I'm very proud of that in the sense that in early 2000s we moved not away from the medical, but we augmented the medical aspects of it. And so the National Cancer Society has always been about education, about screening, finding cancers before they happen, or early detection of cancer, and ensuring that people push towards doing their treatment. But in early 2000s, what we did was that we brought that personal aspect of cancer into it, and we made it a little bit more holistic and looked at the psychosocial, the emotional aspect of cancer as well. So we looked at it in how does cancer impact someone in their life. And we pointed at all the different aspects of it in terms of, yes, the medical aspects of it, but you had to look at the social aspects of it. If they lose their job, how does the family cope? You had to look at the financial burden. You had to look at the navigation. If you didn't live in a city close to a hospital, how do you actually get yourself to that hospital for treatment in the shortest possible moment? So it was looking at the more holistic aspects of how do we support a person within their own community. Right. And particularly when it comes to cancers that affect women, I'm sure that there's a gender dimension to the psychosocial. Women primarily caregivers, so of course they will be impacted. But let's delve into cervical cancer then in that way. How would you describe cervical cancer in Malaysia and how I love the psychosocial aspect of cancer care can be seen, or how cervical cancer can be viewed through the lens of the psychosocial aspect. Yeah.
Okay, so cervical cancer is, yes, a cancer which happens in women. And I think because it is a cancer which is associated with the reproductive aspects of a woman, people don't want to talk about it. There's still that stigma, or even if it's not a stigma, it's a shyness to talk about reproduction. And unfortunately, because education is not as strong in terms of health and reproduction in the country, it's something we tend to keep quiet about. So cervical cancer is a cancer which happens on the lower part of the uterus, the cervix. If you can think of a water bottle, a mineral bottle, and you invert it, and so that the top of the mineral bottle is at the bottom. So if you can think of that.
That's a very good way of describing it. I love that.
but yeah, so the cap is actually your cervix. And it's the opening towards your uterus. And so as the opening, as you know, when you drink out of a water bottle, you always wipe the opening, etc., because that's where everything gets into the water, and you want that to be clean. So with the cervix is the opening of the uterus, and therefore it is also open to different infections. And one of the things that it's open to is a virus called HPV, human papillomavirus. And human papillomavirus is a virus which has been there for a long time, but it's a virus that we've learnt a lot about in the last 30 years. And what we've learnt about it is that it causes the majority of cervical cancer. The other thing we've learnt about it as well, though, is that it's a very common virus. You talk about the flu virus, etc., etc. HPV is nearly as common. So it doesn't always cause cervical cancer, but it has the ability to cause cervical cancer. So just like with the flu virus, you think that we're pushing the idea of vaccination with the flu virus so that you stop yourself from getting the flu. The same thing with cervical cancer. We can stop ourselves from getting the HPV, being infected by the HPV virus. And if we can do that, we can eliminate cervical cancer. Now, cervical cancer in Malaysia is common. It's unfortunately still in the top 10 of cancers. It's number 6. In many countries, in developed countries, it's dropped below the top 10. Malaysia, it's still the top 10. So that's an issue. It means that women are still getting cervical cancer.
Okay, doctor, so if the cervix is essentially the opening, the cap, talk to me about how HPV can get introduced and causes the cancer. Yes,
exactly. So because it's the opening, that's the area where HPV actually can be set into the cervix. So HPV is introduced through sexual intercourse, basically, and it's a contact virus. So as long as there's contact at the cervix, you can be infected by HPV. Now, HPV is very common. It's just as common as the influenza virus, and it's common and it can come and go, meaning that you can get infected and your body naturally will get rid of it.
I see.
But sometimes the HPV settles, and that's what causes cervical cancer. And that can cause cervical cancer 15 years down the line.
Oh, so it doesn't even have to be immediate.
No, it's not immediate. That's the whole thing about cervical cancer and the HPV virus, is that it takes a long time for it to develop. But that's the beauty about it as well. The positivity about it is that because it takes that long to develop, you've got many times to actually check. To make sure that if you see changes in the cervix that could be leading to cervical cancer, you can actually do something about it.
Okay, so talk to me about the vaccine, because I know there is a vaccine, there is an HPV vaccine, and Malaysia has an immunization program.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And we should be very, very proud of that immunization program, because we were one of the first countries to adopt a school-based immunization program.
Okay. So we target them young,
We
right?
target them young. And why you target girls young is that you want to be able to target them before they are exposed to the virus. That's very, very important, because if you target them young enough and they're not exposed to the virus, you get the best immune response to the vaccination. So you're more protected in that sense. So the younger you are, between that ages of 9 and 14, the better the immune system, our own immune system, builds the response to the virus.
And is it only for girls to get the vaccine?
No, it's not.
Oh. Can boys get HPV too?
Boys can get HPV because it's a virus.
Oh.
Again, analogy with influenza, you can get a cold, a boy can get a cold, etc. So HPV can infect both boys and girls. And boys naturally transmit HPV to girls. Now, yes, cervical cancer will only happen in girls, but boys can also get other cancers associated with HPV. So they can get penile cancers, anal cancers, and other infections associated with HPV. So they're vulnerable as well.
And how effective are vaccines? So do vaccines, I guess, talk to me about the efficacy of the HPV vaccines. Yes.
So, okay, if I can talk a little bit about cars, you have different models of cars. So I'm a Mazda girl, not promoting Mazda, but Mazda. So you have your, CX-3, you have your CX-5, your CX-7, CX-9, etc. So with HPV, you have different types of HPV as well. So we have HPV 6, 11, 16, 18, 31, 35, 51, 52, 58. So there are many different types. So with the vaccination, we have different types of vaccination as well. So you have the vaccination which only covers, say, HPV 16 and 18. And HPV 16 and 18 is the subset, a subtype of HPV that causes the most cervical cancer. So it causes 70% of cervical cancer. But then you have vaccinations which actually cover, the latest vaccination which covers 9 different types, which also covers, the 31s, the 35s, the 52s, the 58s. And those subtypes take up the next 20%.
Okay.
So if you get vaccinated with the latest vaccination, which covers 9 different HPV subtypes, it covers over 90%, nearly 99%.
Okay, so that's good chance, yeah.
So,
good chances,
so that's where you talk about cervical cancer elimination. That's where you can say that if we can cover all that, we can actually eliminate cancer.
How would that work in a national immunization program? If there are different strains of cancer and different vaccines for different strains, and there are budgetary considerations for immunization programs, how does that work?
Okay, so that's the unfortunate part of it. As I said, we should be very proud of our national vaccination program. But unfortunately, it's a bivalent. So it covers 16 and 18, which covers 70%.
Bivalent.
So here, the most important thing then is to ensure that you have as many people covered as possible. So you get that herd immunity.
Yes.
So you get that restriction of passing the virus on to someone else. And that's where boys come in. Because if you only cover girls, and our national program is under the school program, so it is also limited by which girls go to school. So not every single girl is going to be covered under the national school program. Yes, 90% of the targeted people will be covered, but you have people who are unable to take the vaccination because maybe they're not at school, they're homeschooled, they have allergies, they're immunocompromised anyway, and so they can't do the vaccination. So by vaccinating boys, by being gender neutral in our vaccination program, you get more people vaccinated, and that protects those who cannot be vaccinated as well.
We learned so much about this during COVID, and all of us became vaccine specialist. So, but
That is true.
Our knowledge about vaccines leveled up quite quickly, I must say. So this is the herd immunity when you talk about vaccines. National Cancer Society of Malaysia also has a vaccine program as well, and that you make sure that there's
we mop up.
Yes, so you mop up the people who might fall through the cracks.
Exactly,
right? Okay.
Exactly, because there's always going to be gaps. So we are there as the second layer to cover those gaps. So what happened last year is that last year we started this program, this public health initiative, which was called Leaving No One Behind, LNOB 1.0. And why we started it was that during COVID, a lot of the schoolgirls didn't get their vaccinations.
Yes, because schools were shuttered.
School was shuttered, and Ministry of Health, unfortunately, was taking a slightly longer time in vaccinating or catching up. The vaccinations. So that's where we stepped in, with the blessing of the Ministry of Health. That's where we stepped in, and through wonderful stakeholders, community who joined in, community organizations, private hospitals, GPs, private corporations, etc., who came in to finance it. We did over 287,000 vaccinations in 1 year. Can you imagine? In 1 year. That's how many we did. And across all states and 141 districts. So we went everywhere.
That is really impressive. If you think about, this is not a government.
No, it's not.
Not a government program, but
Exactly.
that is a real accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I have to say, it's just not us. It was the community who just came together and did it together. You know, it was private partnerships, it was public partnerships, it was NGOs, it was everyone who came together really for it. But where we went out is that we went out to catch up those who hadn't got their vaccinations. We mopped up basically those who never got vaccinated in the first place, who were still in that cohort that should have been vaccinated, but never got vaccinated because they were not in school, or they were in schools that didn't offer vaccinations. So some religious schools might not offer vaccinations. The refugee, the orang asli, girls, you know, who didn't go to schools. So that's what we did. We vaccinated all these people who were in the underserved populations and communities. And, you know, if you wanted to go into our website and look at some of the videos of us going out into orang asli settlements, etc., in Sabah and Sarawak, and, you know, it was amazing. It was amazing that sense of community and social responsibility, everybody coming together to do it. So that was last year. So this year, we have a new program. So it's LNOB 2.0.
2.0, okay. It's the second phase.
It's the second phase. And why do we have a second phase? Is that last year we parachuted, meaning that we came into communities and started doing it. What we want to do now is to get cervical cancer vaccination embedded into communities.
Oh, well, what do you mean by that?
And by embedding into communities, I mean using the local people, using the people who are already in the communities, and who are already in your communities are your general practitioners.
Your family doctors.
Your family doctor. Because it's not so much just about vaccinating, it's also about empowering the woman about her health, empowering the woman to understand what the vaccination is about, and the steps that you need to take after you vaccinate, because even after you vaccinate, you still have to check up. Not as often, etc., but you still have to check up. So it's empowering that woman to understand how cancer impacts you as an individual, but how it impacts your family and the community as well, and the steps that you can take to do it. And who better to empower than your family doctor, the trusted person within your community.
Doctor, can I ask you, with the HPV vaccine, has it, in your observation or experience, does it sometimes become moralized?
Of course.
And how damaging is that to the public health efforts of wanting to eliminate cervical cancer?
incredible how much it can impact. Meaning when we first started this whole idea of vaccination, the first thought that people would come up and say was that, oh, you're encouraging free sex. And we're saying here and saying, you're protecting against a cancer. You're not protecting against pregnancy. You're not protecting, or you're not demoralizing the idea of sexual.
You're not legitimizing.
You're not
anything.
legitimizing sexual activity.
It's protection from
but
cancer.
It's protection. It's protection from disease. It's looking after your loved ones, the people. And as you mentioned, Melissa, the woman is always the caregiver, and because she's always the caregiver, she always takes a second. She's always the second person in the equation, the last on the equation, equation to do anything about her health. And here you have an opportunity to actually do something about a child's health.
Yeah.
You're not even talking about a woman who's in their 20s or 30s. You're looking at doing an intervention when they're a child, and making sure that they can live a full life after it. So yes, there are a lot of barriers to it. And so it's important then that you have someone that you trust to be able to talk to you about it. And it's very, very important for women to embrace the idea that they're in charge of their own health.
I love that. In the time that we have, I do want, because this is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and you've taught us so much about the HPV vaccine, I didn't know that boys could also be included in the vaccination program. Can you share your message with our audience tonight? Women, mothers, fathers, parents, thinking about the HPV vaccination, thinking about screening and prevention of cervical cancer. Would you have a message for our audience tonight, Doctor?
I mean, the first message is to go out and get vaccinated. And we're giving you the opportunity to do so. Outside of the National School Program, you can go to their GPs. There's subsidized vaccination, subsidized vaccination. So it's much lower than the normal cost of vaccinating. Go to your GPs, talk to them about it, get it done. Again, it's a shared responsibility. It's a shared responsibility of community, but it's a shared responsibility of men and women. And that's why we need boys vaccinated as well. We can't sit there anymore and say, oh, it's just a girl's problem. It's a woman's problem. It is not. We don't live in silos. We need to do this together. And remember, this is a cancer that can be eliminated. I mean, don't you want to be part of that movement to actually eliminate a cancer?
The targets, the WHO targets are 2030.
2030.
Right? And how close do you think we are to that in Malaysia? I understand there was a 90, 70, 90 target. Okay.
So 90 for vaccination,
okay.
70 for screening, and 90 to be treated.
To be treated, okay. And that would mean cervical cancer would no longer be a public health issue.
Exactly.
Wonderful. How close are we, do you think? Can we achieve it?
Unfortunately, we can't. Australia is the only country at this point of time which is close to achieving it. And they have a gender-neutral policy, which means boys and girls are both vaccinated. So if you want more, if I can plug our website, if you want more information about it, about the subsidized program as well, if you can go to www.hpv.cancer.org.my.
Okay.
And we have all the information there on it. But get vaccinated. We can eliminate cervical cancer.
Wow.
Let's try.
Let's do it. Let's see it in our lifetimes. This cancer eradicated completely. Doctor, it's been such a wonderful, informative joy to talk to you today. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for this.
That's all the time we have for you on this episode of The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.